Good evening. This is Corey Straub, Fire Officer 2 homework, managing incidents assignment. We're going to look at a building here on fire, size it up, and talk about some initial actions. So here's our building on fire. If I'm riding in charge of the engine as a company officer and I arrived on scene on this first, my size up would be engine 31 is on scene of an approximately 60 by 40 pole barn. I've got heavy fire and smoke through the roof of the barn. Go ahead and make this a working fire. My initial actions would be to set up a collapse zone as a heavy fire involvement, and you can see the damage it's already doing on the structure. The potential for collapse is high with this pole barn here. We're getting reports of 10 horses inside and a 250-gallon fuel oil tank. So we definitely want to get water on this. We want to try and put this fire out versus some thought process is just to let the thing burn, but I'd want to put this out. Don't know the condition of the horses. That's going to be a secondary concern. Primary concern is going to be life safety, including our own. So there is that trailer there that we would want to try and get moved. It's not involved yet, but we want to set up a collapse zone to standard 1.5 times the height of the structure. It says the 360 is favorable in our view, but we do the 360, would communicate that 360, and then command mode, we would establish the command and do a fixed command for this incident. If this was in the city, we're going to get 4 engines, a ladder, a medic, and 2 chiefs to respond. So when one of the chiefs responded, then we would pass the command to them. We have hydrants everywhere in the city, so we're blessed in that aspect. If we were going maybe mutual aid and we needed to worry about a rural water supply operation, then that would be something we would task one of the subsequent officers coming up with. Kind of the standard approach in our area is to call right off the bat for 5 additional tankers, and then make one of the subsequent arriving officers the water supply officer, and then let them determine using a formula how many tankers that you're going to need to sustain fighting this fire. Initial actions for my engine crew arriving is going to be, large diameter line, 2.5, putting it down, trying to put some of this fire out from a safe distance. We're going to need the 2.5 essentially for the reach and the penetration into this, just due to the large volume of fire here. Ladder pipe would be an option. I've been on 2 incidents where we've ran a ladder pipe through a tanker operation. It is very logistical heavy operation to do, but it can be done, so that could be an option down the road. But with what we had to start with, I would start with just the 2.5 line and then working on whatever the water supply situation would be. If this was in the city, we were getting our standard complement. The second engine, would drop their line to us, and we would have both booster tank supplies to put water on this before we got the water supply established, and then everything would be moved towards putting additional hand lines down to get this fire put out. Speak with the homeowner or the occupants here, find out if they've got a veterinary service that they like to use and get them to respond to the scene. Good chance that the horses have already perished in this fire based on the volume of fire that's already here, but maybe there isn't. Maybe there's a pocket somewhere where a horse has survived and need to be evaluated by a vet. Maybe there's some that still need to be euthanized, or just standard burial procedures for them. That's more appropriate for the veterinary folks to make that decision. So once the fire was knocked down, this is going to be an extensive overhaul operation, pending what is in the rest of this barn. If there's hay and other storage combustibles, we want to make sure that we do an extensive overhaul so this thing doesn't reignite later. So might have to get some skid steers, loaders in to help move some of that. It's going to be labor intensive, so we want to make sure we're using all of our personnel and rotating them frequently to avoid over exertion and fatigue of our crews. Once we make this a working fire in our system, it's going to do a callback to bring in off-duty personnel to the city. It's going to dispatch an additional engine and additional medic to come to the scene, so we would end up with 5 engines, 2 medics, the ladder, and the 2 chiefs. It's going to get DP&L and Vectren, so DP&L could arrive. If there's any power issues that need to be resolved to the barn, they can handle that. And then Vectren, if there was any gas supply, if it's in a rural area and there is no Vectren, then they won't respond. Once the overhaul was complete, then we would go into the investigation mode, trying to determine what caused it, determine the cause and origin, and then turn the scene back over to the homeowners. And that would be it for that scenario. Thank you.